Skua Podcast. My name's Marina. I'm a knitwear designer and yarn and fibre dyer and general textiles enthusiast based in the southwest of England. And in this podcast, I chat about the things I've been working on for my shop and a lot of my crafty projects, most of which are knitting, but there's often some spinning and new things coming up. So in today's episode, I'm going to be chatting about what I've been working on recently. It's fairly single-minded with the knitting, but there are a couple of spinning projects we'll be looking at. And I'm also going to take a look at some of my sleeveless patterns that I've released previously, because we've been having some really nice sort of autumnal sunshine here in the UK, and it's a perfect time for some really nice layering. So we'll be having a look at those. So first up, I've got this jumper, which is one I designed quite a while ago. This is the pediment jumper. So it's got a sort of not super wide, but slightly wide crew neck. It's not really close up on the neck, so it works really nicely with a collared shirt. And then it's just a drop sleeve and a slightly boxy body. And on the body, we've got this little wedge section, which just gives it a little bit of interest, and that's just a moss stitch panel. I love sections of moss stitch. They show up in a lot of my designs and in a couple of the other ones I'm going to be showing you. I particularly like moss stitch when it's contrasted with plain stockinette. I really like the way that it visually kind of breaks things up, and that texture, it isn't super complex. It works with quite a lot of different yarns. Like more complex stitch patterns can get lost in busy yarns, but moss stitch, just because of the way the stitches are worked and the way it has its own texture, I find it can just add some really nice visual detail into designs, and so I use it a lot. Yes, this one's pediment. The yarn I used is Vintage 20 DK by Wool Decanted. It's a really lovely yarn. This one is an undyed colour. We've got lots of undyed yarns coming up in this one. This is a blend of British Shetland and Blueface Leicester, and I believe it's the Shetland that is a slightly warmer brown, which just gives this really nice kind of warm beige colour. So this one is worked bottom up in the round until you get to the underarms, and then the back and front are worked flat and then joined at the shoulders, and then you pick up the sleeves and work those top down. Yeah, it's a really nice sort of fairly mindless knit. There isn't a lot of complex shaping. There is the section on the sort of sides and hip that just are something that's going on, and that moss stitch section is quite motivating to find it getting smaller and smaller as it goes up, because it means that it gets slightly faster, because at least for me, moss stitch takes a bit longer to knit than stockinette. So yeah, this one is on Ravelry and my website. And yeah, the one behind me is the Wayard yoke. That one's top down, fairly standard colourwork yoke construction, and the yarn I've used is Mendip DK, which is my own yarn. The main colour is the undyed grey, which is called Sheep Cloudy, and so I have two colours of the base for that one. So there's a white base and a grey base, and I dye the same colours on both, which I'll show you a bit of a bit later. And that gives really nice depth of colour, and so I call the white base the sunny one and the grey one the cloudy one. And then the contrast colour is beach, again dyed on the cloudy base, which is a really nice, slightly difficult to define purpley brown. So yeah, that one's a super nice one to knit this time of year. It feels like, I don't know, it just has lots of autumnal goodness. So then I think I'll show you my sleeveless knits. So these are patterns I've released previously, but I've got something fun coming up. So this one is my deep field top. Now this sample has a bit of dried flowers on it. I'll just move that out the way. This sample is a couple of sizes too big for me. So my modelled photos of it don't show it to its best. But that's what you get when you originally design things for magazines and they ask for a size that is not the size that you are, which is perfectly reasonable. And I was particularly keen to do this one in a bigger size because it's nice to have it shown on a model who's bigger than me, because it helps to show how things look on different bodies. So this one was originally published in Knit Now, and the colours they follow my general guidelines that I gave, but I still think I would have liked to have requested a different blue, because I think this sort of quite tealy, petrol-y blue is a very, very nice blue, but it isn't exactly what I had in mind for the design. So I released the pattern myself quite a few months ago, but now I have just put together kits in my own yarn in my dream colour combination. And so these are on the website now. And so we've got this colour combination. So the idea is that you have the main colour. So here, this is Night, very appropriately, on the cloudy base, which is the naturally grey base. So you have that as the background, like the night sky. And then we have a little gradient of 3 colours for the stars. So these two are Chick. This is the cloudy one, and this is the sunny one. So these are the same dye on the different bases. So this is the white one here. This is Sheep on the sunny base. And so together they make a nice gradient, which you can see sort of in these stars here. And the idea is that it makes some of the stars look further away than the others. If you are familiar with the Hubble Deep Field photo, that is what the pattern is named after. It's a photo just showing millions and millions of stars and galaxies all kind of compressed so that you can see things that are light years and light years away, and it's just the most amazing and kind of humbling thing. And so the colour work on this was kind of inspired by that. So this one is it's bottom up, and it's worked completely in the round. So the armholes and neck are steeked. So if you can see there's a little steeked section folded to the inside, which is then just kind of stitched down so it doesn't flap outwards. And I do have a video that I filmed of a steeking tutorial for a different pattern of mine quite a long time ago, but I will link that below for you so that you can see how steeks are worked, because I know it's something that people find quite scary. But there are quite a lot of colour work designs that I literally wouldn't go anywhere near if it weren't for steeking, because I will not work stranded colour work flat. I just won't do it. It's horrible. And so steeking is a game changer in that regard. And most people I know who have done a steek often then say, I don't know what the fuss was about, I'm going to do this all the time, which is a really interesting one. Yes, so it's worked bottom up. You can add extra length in the body if you want to. You can just add more repeats. And it's designed so that the pattern completely lines up on the shoulder. So the shoulder is done with a 3-needle bind off and is basically invisible, which I find really pleasing, and that's the kind of thing I love in knitwear designs. And yeah, so we've got kits for that one in a colour palette that is a tiny bit more me. They are available on the website, so they come with the yarn you need. You'll be able to select the size you want to make, and it'll give you the correct amount of yarn you need in this colourway. And you also get a PDF copy of the pattern, which will land in your inbox pretty much immediately, and then the yarn follows because it has to go in the post first. And if you're already thinking about it, which some people who are more organised than I am might be, really good alternative Christmas jumper. It's coming up. It's still a way off, but if you're knitting things in time for it, it would work really, really nicely, and also be not so kind of pigeonholed that you can only wear it at that time of year, which is what I really dislike about a lot of Christmas jumpers. It's like, here's a thing you can wear for probably like 2 weeks of the year, and because of thematic stuff, you can't wear it the rest of the time, and that really annoys me. I like to get as much wear out of my clothes as I possibly can. So yeah, that's that one. And then this one, I was wearing this one yesterday. It's actually the same colour yarn as this, though this one has been washed much more frequently because it goes against my skin. And I was wearing this one yesterday, and my little boy looked at me and he said, "You're not wearing a top, Mummy." I was like, "No, I am. I promise you this isn't my skin." So I had to prove to him that it wasn't me and it was actually a separate item of clothing. "But you don't have any sleeves." Well, yeah, sometimes that happens. 2-year-olds. So this is dry Opterus. It's really, really lightweight and nice. Like, it's great as a base layer that you can then chuck loads of layers on top of. It's got a nice little split hem and 2x2 ribbing, because I think 2x2 ribbing is just the loveliest thing ever. It's got quite skinny ribbing at the neck and armholes. The armholes are designed to be quite high up, so they do fit quite close. So that like armhole gap can look a bit unpleasant, and this is like, it's pure wool, so it's not necessarily designed to be worn when it's really hot. And again, we've got a nice little detail on top of the shoulder, so it's got these stitch patterns that are really subtle, that run up the sides and then round the armholes and then meet on the shoulder. And they're sort of faux cables, so they're not actually cables. They're worked with increases and decreases, which is slightly less faff than cables, I find. So I wear this one quite a lot in sort of transitional weather when it's not super hot, but it is sunny generally. But then it's also really good if it's properly cold and you just want to bung loads of layers on top. But this one, again, the yarn is wool decanted. This is their vintage 24 ply, which is quite a fine yarn. So this is knitted on a 2.5mm needle. But the fabric it gives is just glorious. I mean, it's really nice and like drapey and slinky, and the yarn is like really quite nice and soft. And it's 100% British. It's all wool grown on the British Isles here, which I love. And then finally, for my sleeveless designs, this is my most popular pattern ever, which I still find really interesting. I wasn't expecting that to be the case. Like, some things I expect to be slightly more popular than others. Some things are just a big punt because some of the stuff I design is quite off kilter. Like, I have some fairly niche aesthetic tastes, and this one, I don't know, it's just turned out to be really popular in a slightly surprising way. So this is my Scrumper Waistcoat. This one, the colour looks different every single time I look at it. It's designed using Appledore DK from John Arbon. If I do up that top button so you can see the neck properly. So it's got a similar side detail to dry Opterus, where you've got a side panel that then goes up and around the armholes. So we've got a little column of moss stitch there. All of the edging is moss stitch rather than ribbing. I did mention that I love moss stitch against stockinette. And then some super simple little cables, which also go up round the button band and along, but these ones only have half the cable, so it's a slightly skinnier detail than you get at the sides. And so it's worked flat because it's a button-up one, and the button bands are worked at the same time as the rest of the waistcoat, so you don't have to pick up stitches for that. The only picking up of stitches is for the armholes, which is a really little amount. And then once you've seamed the shoulders, you leave the button band stitches on hold and carry on working over those 5 stitches for like this much. So you have this weird little tab, kind of placket looking thing. You have that on each side, and then at the back neck you just graft the stitches together and then stitch it down along the back neck. And it's a construction I really like, and it means that you just don't have to pick up stitches. It's such a huge deal. It makes life so much easier. So that one is in John Arbon Appledore DK. The colour is Dufflin, which is just the most weird and beautiful oil slick. Like, it's really subtle. From far away it looks sort of tealy, taupey grey, but then close up it's all like, there's magenta in there, there's turquoise in there, there's yellow in there. It's a really complex blend that I think is so pretty. And then I made another version. So this one I made in a smaller size. I went down one size, so it's a bit more fitted on me, and I missed off the bottom 2 buttonholes. So there are 6 buttonholes on this one, and therefore 6 buttons. And this one I just did 4. And so it's just a bit more cropped, and it sits really nicely with high-waisted things because I love wearing high-waisted things. And this yarn was a gift from my lovely friend Kat, and I then dyed it with woad seeds, which gave a surprisingly interesting colour. I didn't know what I was expecting, but that was woad I grew in my old garden. And the buttons on here are from Tom Dyson Woodworking, which I talked about, I believe, the last time I added them to my shop. I had been chatting with Tom saying, you know, I'm just going to stock a fairly small amount because, you know, I'm quite new to having other people's stuff available on my website. It's not something I've done before, and I want to be really selective about what I have. I definitely only want stuff I would use myself. And I love Tom's buttons so much, so I thought I would just try out and have a few sets of buttons, and they all vanished immediately. So Tom has very kindly been very busy in his workshop, and I've added a lot more of the wooden buttons to my website. So if you were interested after I last talked about them and then they were all already gone, there are more buttons. You can go and have a look at the buttons. They're beautiful. They're handmade by a lovely chap called Tom Dyson. He's based in Southampton, which is probably an hour and a half away from me. I think he's just outside Southampton actually. And he works with a tree surgeon friend of his who fells trees that have to be removed from people's gardens, usually for like safety reasons. and so it's super local wood. So these ones are yew, and then there are laburnum, which is a much darker one. And I just love that. I love the super local thing. The fact that all the buttons come from a single tree, like all the buttons of a certain kind of wood. And I think that's lovely. So I'll make sure to have a link to those available for you as well. So yes, sleeveless knits, perfect for this season. Really nice for layering. I like to wear, especially a waistcoaty one, under a cardigan and have that kind of, it's like a very casual, cozy version of a sort of men's three-piece. If you were going for the smart waistcoat and jacket thing, except knitted waistcoat and cozy cardi is more like cottage core hobbit vibes, which I really enjoy. Now, I only have one work in progress to show you because it's all I've been working on pretty much. One knitting work in progress, that is. I've got a couple of fibre things that I'll show you afterwards. And so this is most of a cardigan. So I showed this one in the last podcast episode, and I think I'd just done like the top section of the body. I can't remember if I'd even joined. Maybe I had. But so I've been working on this a lot because, excuse me. Yes, I've been working on it a lot because it's part of a collection that I'm a little bit behind on, and I do have a lot of deadline knitting to get on with, so I'm being quite monogamous with the knitting and just plugging away. So I got to the point last night where I thought I was going to be able to show this to you with the hem all nicely finished. We've still got stitches on hold for pocket linings here. It does have pockets. And the hem stitches are on hold because I misjudged slightly. No, I forgot what I had decided to do with the design. So I'm going to put a little sketch up here for you so you can see what I'm going for. And you can see here I've got just 2 rows of a darker colour, which is what I have going on the edge of the pocket and on the cuffs of the sleeves. I haven't woven in any ends yet because it's all very much in progress. So round all of the edges of this cardi, I am doing this contrast colour that's basically acting as like a piping, sort of like on upholstery, or like you used to get on, I'm trying to think the last time piping would have been popular on garments. It's a very long time ago. And so I had got to this point and I'd actually started the tubular bind off for the hem because it's all tubular, which gives a really nice finish. So on the cuff here, it's just really nice and boingy. And I just love the finish it gives. And I think it's a little bit, because it's got a bit more give and stretch to it, and it's kind of continuous. There isn't that tension that a standard bind-off gives. I think it's a little bit more hard-wearing than a standard bind-off because there is just more give in it. You're not going to accidentally put too much strain on it and then it tugs and breaks some yarn. So this is going to have a nice big button band and collar on it. If I just show you how it's constructed first. So we've got shoulder tabs for a saddle shoulder, which then continue down along the top of the sleeves with this really fun cable pattern that I am so pleased with now that I'm seeing it sort of on a whole sleeve. That then goes down into a few rows of garter and then ribbing and then this little contrast colour. For the button band, it's going to be a shawl collar, so I'll be picking up stitches all the way along the front, across the shoulder piece, across the back neck, and then down the other side. And if I finished this hem and then picked up my stitches, worked my ribbing, so the ribbing will go perpendicular to this edge, I'd then have a section here at the bottom that wouldn't have any of the darker piping detail around it. So what I need to do is undo one row, because I've done 2 rows of the contrast colour. I need to undo one row of that, put the stitches back on hold, and then when I have done the button band and shawl collar, when I do the contrast edge that will go up and around, I also will need to pick up stitches around the corner along this little bottom section, and then I am faced with doing a tubular bind off, which is sewn with a tapestry needle all the way from here up round the neck, down the other side, and then all the way round the back, round the hem, and then round to the front where I started. I haven't counted how many stitches that's going to be, but I suspect that bind off will take me most of an evening itself. But that's what's going to make the design really good. You'll have that lovely dark little detail. I keep calling it a piping detail because that's what it reminds me of, and it hadn't occurred to me until I was thinking about like how it is applied and how it fits within the context of the garment. Is really just a couple of rows and then a tubular bind off or cast on in the context of the pocket. But I really want that detail to be lovely, because this cardi is mostly about the details. It's about the way this pattern carries all the way down the sleeve. It's the way that cable pattern is repeated on the pocket, because I love things like that. So I'm very, very excited that I am almost finished with this one. The end is in sight, because it feels like I've been working on this forever, which I haven't, but it was basically a case that I finished my last sample, which if you've watched previously you haven't seen because it's for a magazine, and that was sent off basically the second that was in the post. I cast this one on, and the same will be true of this. The second I cast this one off, I will be casting on the next design in the queue, and so on for the rest of the year. I've planned poorly, but it's loads of fun. I'm doing loads of things that I'm really enjoying. It just feels slightly relentless, and there's this. I want to work on this. So yes, I'll finish talking about this and then I'll talk about that, because that's joy. This is part of my West Country collection, which is going to be published, date TBC. It is knitting patterns designed using yarn exclusively from the West Country, so fibre that has been grown, processed, spun in the southwest of England by farms that have good values, that care about the environment and the welfare of their animals, and are working to improve the environment in which they work. And so I've talked about this a lot before, but I love it. I've been visiting the farms that I'm getting the yarn from and taking inspiration from those farms for the designs. And this is made possible by some funding from the South West England Fibre Shed, which is an organisation I'm part of, aiming to promote regional textiles and local textile systems. Because I think that's really important. Like in the UK at least, but a lot of the parts of the world, there is local fibre being produced right down the road. And yes, it might have to be sent off a little way for processing and spinning and whatever, but there is a resource that's just right there that doesn't necessarily have to be grown on the other side of the world and then shipped to a different continent to be processed and spun and then shipped to a different continent to be sold. It doesn't have to be like that. In the UK, wool was such a huge industry, and it's not there. Like, we're not back to where it was however many years ago, but there is a growing resurgence of interest in British wool and local materials, and I find that very exciting. So the idea of this collection is to celebrate the people who are growing fibre in a way that is respectful of where they are farming, and also to encourage knitters to take a look at what is growing locally to them, what farmers have yarn available, because there are loads, and the farmers tend to be busy people. They tend to have a lot on their plates, and having a website that Google can find easily and that they can promote frequently on social media is often very low on the priority list for them. So it's to draw attention to stuff like that. So if you have a local fibre shed, you can look it up. You can look on the Fibre Shed website. Originally started in California. There are lots of local chapters. I'm in the southwest of England one. I will include a link below. You can go look on the Fibre Shed website. You can see if you have a local fibre shed, and if you do, they are likely to have a producer map of people who are producing various textiles projects in your area. Products in your area. And it's a great way to discover people who are doing good things. So this project has been taking up a load of my time, and it's great because I love it. It's something I'm super excited and passionate about, which you can probably tell from how quickly I'm talking. I'm sorry, especially if any of you aren't native English speakers. So I have been doing more farm visits. I've got my basket of joy here, which is just all my... God, that's getting heavy. This is all my fibre shed stuff. All the stuff for this collection. So we've got the tree hay tank, which is currently in testing. I've shown that before, so you can go back to previous episodes to have a look at that one. It's not out yet. It'll be released as part of the collection, so keep an eye out for that one. Get on my newsletter if you want to hear when it's coming out. And then this is the yarn. This is from Gullet Farm, which is the yarn for this cardigan. I forgot to mention the last time I talked about it that it is a DK weight yarn. I believe it's 200 meters to 100 grams. And so these ones... Sorry, I thought one of them looked a different colour. These ones are the one I'm using. This is a sheep called Isla. They do a really nice thing. They get, because they have lots of interestingly coloured Shetland sheep, but only a small flock of pure Shetlands, they then blend those with their Romney, which is all white, and so the individual colour of those fleeces kind of dictates the final colour of the yarn, which I think is super cool. Oops, here's another one. This is Manx Lochten, and I believe it's Romney again. This is really pretty. I want to try this one. So these are all from Gullet Farm down in Devon. And then those ones I talked about last time. Let's get this one out. So these ones, locks first, because they're fun. This is Romney. So you can see it has a single lock there. This is lamb's wool, so it's a slightly shorter fibre than you'll often see on Romney. And it's got a really nice crimp and a good lock structure to it. This is from... So I went to see Anton of the Raw Wool Company a few weeks ago. this is his Wensleydale. This is what he is sort of known for. If I pull off a single lock from this, bloody hell, look at that. That's almost as long as my hair. This is beautiful, beautiful wool. And so Anton has a flock of coloured Wensleydales, and he also works with neighbouring farms. He runs his sheep with a couple of other farmers, and so I went down to visit. And this yarn, which almost looks black here, it's a very, very dark brown. This is Rum and Raisin, which is a blend of Anton's Wensleydale and Sleeveless. I'm just checking the percentage for you. Yeah, so 70% Sleeveless and 30% Wensleydale. And so it gives this lovely, really dark yarn. And this is a DK weight. It's got a nice amount of bounce to it, but also that really long fibre length on the Wensleydale will give it loads of strength. So this will be the next yarn I use in my collection. And it was just really, really lovely to go and spend a bit of time with Anton, because I've only ever chatted to him at yarn shows, which can be slightly fraught. Like at yarn shows, people who are exhibiting tend to be a bit frazzled. And so it was really nice to go and spend some time with him and really talk about his practices and the things that he believes in terms of animal welfare, in terms of carbon footprint and environmental impact of raising sheep and producing products. Yeah, it was really, really just awesome. And I will be telling more of these stories as part of this collection. Like, it's not just going to be a knitting pattern, it's going to be, each one will be a knitting pattern with a bit of the story of the farm where the yarn comes from. So while I was down visiting Anton, I managed to pick up a loom, which I'm not going to talk about properly now. It's just a bit of an elephant in the room, because this is the only corner where I can actually make some space to chat to you, and the loom is taking up a fair bit of it. So if you've been watching for a while, you will have seen my efforts in weaving with a rigid heddle loom. That skirt behind me is made from fabric that I wove on my rigid heddle loom. And in terms of creating fabric, it's not that I've reached the limit of what I can achieve, because I haven't. You can get a lot more fancy with not tie-ups, because it's not really a tie-up on a rigid heddle loom, but sort of threading patterns and ways you can weave patterns. I haven't really played with that much, because I find the rhythm of weaving on a rigid heddle loom quite fragmented, and it's really hard to get into a nice flow because you're doing everything with your hands. It involves lots of like picking things up and putting them down again. And so for a while I've been wanting to be able to weave slightly wider. So my rigid heddle loom is a 24-inch, 60 centimetre, which just gives me enough width for my body. So if I want to make a dress, I can get a bodice panel out of a single width of fabric, but it's only just. There isn't much play there. And this one has a weaving width of just over 80 centimetres, I believe. So that's an extra 20 centimetres, which is sort of an additional 30-something%, which is very exciting. And also, because it is a floor loom, down there are treadles, which move things up and down. That one's got stuck now. The small boy has been in here playing with it because he thinks those are really fun. And so I haven't actually got weaving with it yet, because I have a lot on my plate and I cannot allow myself to get sucked into another project that's going to want to take all of my time. But I did The loom didn't come with a raddle, which is used for spacing out your warp. So I did have quite a bit of fun with a hammer and a load of nails and a piece of wood left over from our building work. So I am sort of ready to go when I get a bit of time, which at this rate isn't going to be for another couple of months, which is a shame. But it really made sense for this one. Like, the loom is a slightly unusual one. Like, I've not seen lots of them around. It's a dryad loom and it's a folding loom, so it does sort of collapse down a bit, so I can make it get out of the way a bit more, but it's a bit of faff. And it is, for a floor loom, it takes up a lot less space than a lot of other floor looms. So apparently they were used as teaching looms, and so it's a really simple setup, which is good for me because I have never woven properly on anything other than the rigid heddle loom, so I am sort of going to be a bit self-taught, but that's where I am with pretty much everything I do, so it'll be fine. So yes, I'm very, very excited to do more. It'll enable me to weave faster. Like, I love slow textiles, but that's not working as slowly as possible. That's just using like human powered tools rather than electric powered tools. Basically, to me, that's the way I think of it. And so being able to weave a bit faster in a way that feels more rhythmic and less frustrating, being able to weave a bit wider, being able to weave finer, so finer fabric with the rigid heddle loom, with that one and a couple of other projects I've done. I've sort of pushed how fine you can get without the process becoming unbearably finicky, because you can add additional heddles and things, but it's basically trying to make a rigid heddle loom do what it's not designed for, and it gets messy and annoying. And also I want to be able to weave with flax, and flax on a rigid heddle loom is just not fun. I've not even tried it because the people I've talked to who have done it do not recommend, and I can see why. Flax has very little stretch to it, so being able to get good tension on it is very difficult on a rigid heddle loom. So this will give me lots more opportunities and give me a lot more flexibility for working with the kind of yarns I'm working with, and to make the kind of fabric I want to. And also it means that I will be able to do twill just as easily as I would be able to do plain weave, which is really exciting because the loom is currently set up for a 3/1 twill, which is a very nice draft. So yeah, loom. I got a loom. I want to play with it, but as I said, I'm gonna have to wait. But when I do get started on it, I will be making a video of sort of getting to know it, talking a bit more about the loom for my patrons, because that has already been requested by a few people. Yeah, and then I'll show you a couple of my spinning projects in progress. So first up on the spinning is just a super quick update on a project that I've talked about before that I've made some progress on. This is my skewer blend spin. This is a colour called Highland. Overfilled my bobbin, as I tend to do. So I've got my first bobbin filled. I have another 3 to fill, and even that won't be all of it. In fact, yeah, 3, because I'm going to do this as a 2-ply, and so I'll just spin up 4 bobbins and then ply what I've got all together, like 2 bobbins and then 2 bobbins, and then I'll just keep spinning and then ply whatever's left over. So on the skewer blend, recently I've been doing a little section on what I've been dyeing lately. I have been doing so much dyeing, and I can't show you because I finally decided to do some winter mystery boxes. So these are, I'm staring over there because there is a big pile of fluff that needs sorting. There's going to be a yarn one and a fibre one. The colours will be sort of the same, but with the fact that the fibre base is different to the yarn base, and so they will be a bit different, but they'll be called the same things. So there will be 4 colourways per box. They will each be individually wrapped and numbered for if you want to use it as an advent. So the idea would be that you can open 1 per week of December, if that's a thing you want to do, or it'll be really nice for gifting, or if you just want to treat yourself to some nice fibre. But I will be revealing the theme of that very soon. It's a mystery box, so I won't be showing you the colours, hence me not showing you the gigantic pile that is over there. But I've been having so much fun, and I really love the palette I've put together. So do keep an eye on my website. Well, sign up to my newsletter, that's the best way. They are super limited quantities, and they are like ready to ship. Well, they will be once I've got them all ready to go, but they are dyed. The colours are non-repeatable, and so what is there will be all that there is. And as always, my patrons will get early access 24 hours before everyone else. And yeah, so those are those. I'm really excited about them, but I don't really have anything to show you because it's all a surprise. I'm very excited about that. I've been having lots of fun with them, and I hope that people are going to enjoy them. So that's that on the skewer blend. So the fibre will be skewer blend, and the yarn, there will be an option of Mendip 4-ply or Mendip DK, but the colours will be the same on both. And then fibre wise, this isn't a spinning project yet, but it will become a spinning project once it's ready to be spun. This is a video that I released a couple of weeks ago. I'm trying out, like previously in the podcast, I have included a making segment, which I really enjoy. I love showing like the process of working on things as well as just chatting about them. But I am just trying out splitting those out into separate videos so that you've got a shorter sort of focused making segment, which is about how I'm doing something. So that was picking up on a project I started, I think in 2021, maybe even before that. But then like I had a kid and I moved house and everything was chaos for a very long time. So I am now picking up what was a series I started of fleece to fabric. So I'm taking, sorry for the crinkling, I'm taking this onion dyed fleece. So this is Shetland Teeswater from Fernhill Farm. I've dyed it with onions. There are previous videos on how to scour the wool, so how to wash it, and then how to actually dye it with the onion skins. And then the latest video is how I take this and turn it into this, which is something that's actually ready to spin. And I'm mentioning this because I suspect that the platform that you're watching this on doesn't like to put the making videos in front of people when they are browsing. So if you're interested in my making stuff, please do subscribe, because then it'll hopefully ensure that stuff shows up in your feed, and also just periodically like check on my channel and see if there's anything that hasn't been shown to you but is there and new. Because in the next one, which may be a little way off because I still have a lot of skewer blend to spin up before I can start a new spinning thing, I'm going to be spinning this, and I'm going to be following the process of turning this fleece into something that then becomes something wearable. I suspect I'm going to blend that with some other wool and maybe some other fibre as well. I've yet to decide, but we will see how we're doing once I've finished processing that. And yeah, I'm excited about that one. I miss slightly slower processing, and goal for like hopefully round Christmas and early next year is to slow down a bit on stuff that has deadlines attached to it, and enjoy some more slow craft and making things at my own pace. And it's really, really nice that I will hopefully have that option, because as I release more patterns, there is more of a back catalogue of stuff out there that people can get, and I'm really enjoying making videos for you guys. I'm still trying to work out like a schedule and a format that works both for algorithms but also for me as a maker and person who spends a lot of time looking after a small child. So yeah, I'm really enjoying making videos, and I have been making them more frequently. Don't know if you've noticed, but it's been really nice to see more of you tuning in. And so I hope to continue making more videos and sharing with you what I'm doing, and hopefully that will include more making stuff, because I will theoretically be able to spend a bit more of my time not just on relentless sample knitting, but we've got at least another couple of months of relentless sample knitting, and then I'm hoping that like January will calm down a bit, and then Out of the Dark make along, which Annie, if you're watching, I love you. One of my long-time customers and lovely humans, Annie, recently started spinning and bought some fluff from me and posted on Instagram that she'd specifically got some to queue up for the Out of the Dark make-along, which is a make-along I tend to run every year from January to March to kind of get us through the slightly grim bit of the year when everything's grey and brown. And I haven't talked about it so far this year, like since the last one finished, but I'll be running the Out of the Dark make-along again, so it's a way off, but if you want to start queuing your projects, you are more than welcome to. And I'm already thinking up like another like category of makes for it, because usually it's just anyone using my yarn, patterns or fibre can enter the giveaway, the make-along, which comes along with a giveaway of various nice prizes. But I'm thinking about some extra things I can do to encourage the kind of making I really enjoy. So yeah, I'm gonna stop rambling now and allow you to get on with your day. I really enjoyed chatting to you, and I look forward to chatting to you again soon. So if you want to keep up with what I'm doing in between videos, you can sign up to my newsletter where you will hear about all the exciting things I've got coming out soon. You can follow me on Instagram, where I am not posting as frequently as I'd like to, but again, I'm spending a lot of time working on the same stuff. So less inspiring for photos than it could be. Nonetheless, I hope to catch you soon, and I really hope you've enjoyed this video. So until next time, bye bye.